Good evening and welcome. My name is Taylor Kingman, and as president of the Board of Trustees of the San Angelo Independent School District, I would like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting. I also welcome all of those of you who are watching the recording of this meeting online or on our public access channel. We appreciate your interest in the activities of our students and the business of SAISD. All items that will be discussed at our meeting this evening have been posted as required by state law. Also, as you may be aware, our board meets a minimum of 2 times per month, and most, if not all, items on our agenda this evening have been previously discussed at our earlier pre-agenda board workshop. As members of the SISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from our superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the district. Please keep in mind that our meeting is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public and not a meeting of the public. However, we have a public comment item on every one of our meeting agendas that allows anyone present who wishes to speak to our board team on an item not on our action agenda or an action item on the agenda an opportunity to do so. Please provide your name and contact information and the specific topic you wish to address on a public comment form located at the back of the room, should you want to speak on an issue on our agenda or not on our agenda this evening. Please listen carefully and comply with the following rules so that we can move through this part of the meeting efficiently. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes. The district will provide an official timekeeper. You will be notified when your time is up. Please respect the privacy of others and refrain from identifying students, employees, or other community members by name. Disruption of the meeting will not be tolerated at any time. Comments on any subject, whether positive or negative, must be courteous and respectful. And comments are limited to the specific topic you indicate on the form you filled out. Any speaker with a specific complaint about a district employee decision or operational issue should present that complaint through the appropriate mechanism, which is the district's formal grievance process. If you have a pending grievance, please remember that you will not be permitted to discuss this during public comment. Also, please understand if you speak to us on an item not on our action agenda, that the board cannot reply to you except to thank you for your comments, since the matter has not been posted for discussion. In compliance with state law, these proceedings are recorded and will become part of SISD's permanent legal record. In order that the recording will adequately reflect the proceedings, I ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. I also ask, as I remind my fellow board members, to please turn off or silence your cell phones. Again, thank you for being here and for your support of SISD. We do have a quorum this evening. Mr. Dindal is unable to be here this evening. Although elected board is a volunteer board and occasionally jobs get in the way, and he's almost always here, but today work got in the way of him being here this evening. But with that, we're going to ask Monsignor Larry Droll from the Cathedral Church of the Sacred Heart to start us with our invocation.
Good evening. Let us begin by recalling the prayer of King Solomon for wisdom as he began his leadership. This is taken from 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 7 to 10. Solomon prays, "Now, Lord my God, you have made me, your servant, king to succeed David, my father. But I am a mere youth, not knowing at all how to act. I, your servant, among the people you have chosen, a people so vast that it cannot be numbered or counted. Give your servant, therefore, a listening heart, to judge your people and to distinguish between good and evil. For who is able to give judgment for this vast people of yours?" The Lord was pleased with Solomon's request. We pray, Lord God, for that listening heart which leads to wisdom, especially for our SAISD school board. We ask your blessing on our entire school system, the teachers and administrators, the students and parents and staff. We seek your blessing of safety in all of our gatherings and facilities. We pray for those who are in need this day. We pray for peace in our world and harmony in our city. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
All right. Now we have some students from Bowie Elementary. We have Rachel Villarreal, Danny Young, Jace Garcia, and Emma Hare. And they're going to come up here and help us with our pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas. If everyone could please stand. And y'all stay up there. All right. Next, we're going to move forward with our agenda. First, we have recognitions, and the first recognition this evening is for National School Counseling Week, and Ms. Klein is already up there.
Good evening, board members, executive directors, Dr. Gomez and Dr. Moran. I am Rebecca Klein. I'm the Director of Counseling and Mental Health for San Angelo ISD, and I'm here to share with you some SEISD counselor recognitions for the month of February. February 3rd through 7th is National School Counseling Week. We were able to focus on invaluable contributions by our school counselors for our students, and it's not just that one week, it is all year long. This year, Three Rivers Counseling Association, a local chapter of the Texas Counseling Association, called for nominations for Counselor of the Year along with student tribute and scholarship awards. Many of our own people received recognition. This year, the George Plyler Counselor of the Year awardees are Olivia Sarabia from Reagan Elementary Counselor of the Year, Janet Castro, Michael McCarthy, Deborah Ramos, and Brittany Wagner, Glenn Middle School Counseling Team of the Year, and Jennifer Young, Central High School, San Angelo ISD Counselor of the Year for high schools. If you all would please come up, we would love to get a photo opportunity. Thank you, counselors. I do also want to recognize that the Friend of Counseling Award goes to our very own Amy Mazzell Flint. She is part of the San Angelo Clubhouse and National Alliance for Mental Health and our biggest advocate for SAISD student mental health, so thank you, Amy. Three Rivers Counseling Association also had nominations for Student Tribute Awards. These students received awards because in the face of adversity or challenges, they continued to persevere and thrive. The Student Tribute awardees are Greta Valdevite of Crockett Elementary, Drake Reed of Lone Star Middle School, and Gabriel Gomez of Lakeview High School. If you are in the room, please come up for a photo opportunity. They may not have made it. Here she comes. Here comes Greta. I see you, Greta. Oh, good job, Greta. Three Rivers also awards scholarships to 2 of our high school students based on an essay written about who inspired them to enter the career field or major that they have chosen. The scholarship recipients this year are Christian Lumbaran of Lakeview High School and Peyton Caceres of Central High School. If you would please come up. Thank you. And finally, each year, the Texas School Counseling Association awards school counselors and campuses the Distinguished CREST, or Counselors Reinforcing Excellence for Students in Texas Award. This award recognizes the cyclical and reflective work of the counselors and their comprehensive school counseling programs that they implement on their campus. This includes classroom guidance, individual planning, responsive services, and system support. This year, we would like to recognize our recipients. So as I call your name or your school, please come up. Lakeview High School, Stacy Riddle, Rachel Gondar, Jennifer O'Donnell, and Jenny Rupert, along with Zach Ramirez, principal. I know we only have one representing tonight. It's okay. Lincoln Middle School, Beth Makeda, Erica Soto, and Joe Gondar. Thank you. Lone Star Middle School, Crest Leadership Award. This means that they have earned Crest for 4 years in a row based on their applications. So come on up. Amber Garza, Justin McClure, Michael O'Brien, and Amy Master was the principal when they were working on this Crest Award. So. Austin Elementary School, although they have closed, they did earn Crest for 1 more year before they did that. And the counselor for that school at the time was Jessica Riddle, and the principal at the time was April Johnson. Unfortunately, they can't be here today, but we do want to recognize that they did earn the Crest for their final year, so we are proud of that. Glenmore Elementary School also received the Crest, Ashley McDonough and Principal Terry Gould. This is their first year to earn the Crest, so we're super proud of that and all the work that Ashley has done. Too many things. And last but definitely not least, Santa Rita Elementary School earned the Crest Award for the first year this year. Kaylee Fontenot, our counselor, and Kay Scott, the principal. We are super excited for this one. We could not be prouder of our counselors and the work they do to directly support our students and staff. We appreciate the support we receive from all of SAISD cabinet team, board members, and families. Thank you.
Dr. Kingman and Dr. Moran, before we move on to the recognition, at this time I'd like to personally thank Mrs. Rebecca Klein, our Director of Counselors, for all of her support. She's about students first and does a tremendous job lifting up our counselors and all of our staff in SAISD. So thank you, Mrs. Klein, for your leadership.
Next, Dr. Gomez is going to help us with recognition of the SAISD VEX robotics.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board, we are thrilled with a full house in the audience this evening and are so excited to recognize the hard work of these students and staff. We extend our deepest gratitude and admiration to the incredible STEM and robotics staff and coaches for their unwavering dedication, hard work, and showmanship during the recent first annual Robo-Ram Showdown at the Angelo State University Ben Kelly Center for Human Performance. This competition was held on February 1st. Their guidance, innovation, and commitment to excellence have been instrumental in shaping the next generation of problem solvers and leaders. At this particular competition, the following campuses received awards during the event. If present, we invite coaches and students to come up for a picture when I call your name. First up, we have Santa Rita Elementary. Now listen to these team names. They come up with these team names. So Santa Rita Elementary, 18493A. If you are present, will you please come up right here to the center? And their sponsor, Mr. Wheaton, and their principal, Mrs. Scott. She's giving me a look. You are their principal. This team, before y'all leave, guys, this team received the Teamwork Champion Award and the Robot Skills Second Place Award. Congratulations. Next up, Crockett Elementary. Oh, this is a long one. Team 21043A, Crockett Robotics. If you're present, would you please come up? And their coach, Mrs. Ratcliffe. This team received the Teamwork Second Place Award and the Robot Skills Champion. There are some missing team members. But thank you both for being here. We understand that they're very busy schedules. From Lamar Elementary, if we have anyone present from Lamar, if y'all would start making your way up as I call out their team name of 84737A, the Titans. Come on up. Y'all have to smile. These are proud parent moments too, so please look ahead at the camera. And their coach, Ms. Rivers. And this team received the Teamwork Award. Congratulations. From Fort Concho Elementary, 3105A, the Sandman. And their coaches and sponsors, Ms. Ferguson and Ms. Sanchez. And is Mrs. Barton, was she able to make it? Maybe not. She's hiding. Miss Barton, are you looking at me like Mrs. Scott? They're pointing at you, Miss Barton. We'll just wave. I'm sure she will thank me for that. Congratulations. This team received the Teamwork Third Place Award. Also from Fort Concho, 310F Supergirl. Sorry, coaches and sponsors and Mrs. Barton, another photo. This team received the Judges Award. Congratulations. Now, from Glenn Middle School, we will start first with the teams from the Robo-Robotics, and then we may have some other teams from Glenn for their showings throughout the course of the year. So first up from Glenn Middle School, this is a long one, 41100C info required. And their sponsor, Mr. Ratcliffe. Uh-oh, y'all gotta smile. Mr. Ratcliffe, why don't you stay up there? Congratulations to that team for the Teamwork Award. Next up from Glenn, 41100B, info needed. Oh, so for clarification, they're saying Mr. Ratcliffe picked the names. Notice some of our teams did bring their robots. This team received the Judges Award. Congratulations. Next up, go ahead and stay there, Mr. Ratcliffe. Next up, 11400A standard deviation? Okay, come on up. Well, we've got some. Give them a second. Here we come. And this team also received the Judges Award. Congratulations. The students you saw in front of you this evening demonstrate creativity, teamwork, and perseverance, values that extend far beyond the competition floor. Congratulations, students, on a job well done. If we have any STEM coaches that were not called for the February 1st competition, we would also like them to stand and be recognized for their contribution to STEMs and robotics in the district. It's very important that we thank Mrs. Feck, Mr. Lagone, Mrs. Barton, and all of our STEM coaches and robotics sponsors for bringing to life the SAISD learner profile. Thank you for your passion for making a lasting impact in the world of robotics and STEM. Your contributions are truly invaluable. Please join me in a final round of applause. And board members, at your seats, you have a small token of appreciation for your support of STEM and robotics education and SAISD.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. You're up again.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to do the recognition of Career and Technical Education Month and the fact that we're a district of distinction.
Absolutely. So we're going to display a slide for the first portion. And Mrs. Fentress, I know that we don't enjoy these things, but if you could please make your way to the front.
My daughter and then my son was on the Glen.
Perfect. So Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board, as we move to the next recognition, as you all are aware, February is CTE month. Last week for the pre-agenda meeting, we had a workshop in advance where our CTE ambassadors were able to share with you firsthand their experiences through our CTE classrooms in SAISD. To begin this evening's recognition, as you will see pictured there before you, we are here to honor Mrs. Roxanne Fentress, our Director of CTE, our high school principals, and all of our CTE teachers and staff for their outstanding leadership and dedication to our CTE programs. Their unwavering commitment to providing students with high-quality, hands-on learning experiences have been instrumental in preparing our students for future careers. Their hard work and vision were pivotal in our district receiving the prestigious District of Distinction Award from the Career and Technical Association of Texas, CTAT. You know, we like a lot of acronyms. So that is this beautiful award here, and this on your screen is Mrs. Fentress receiving this award on behalf of the district. I won't make you come stand in the middle yet. Also, as you will see behind us here, the banner that was received. Under Mrs. Fentress's guidance, our CTE programs have achieved remarkable milestones, including innovative programming, industry-based certifications, community partnerships, and exceptional student outcomes. Thank you, Mrs. Fentress, for your dedication to student success and for making a lasting impact on our district and community. If we have any CTE teachers present, if you two would stand, I know we had some. We would like to honor you. I see them hiding in the back. Just kind of wave. And at this time, we will switch over to our latest CTE video. This video can be found on the San Angelo ISD webpage under Career and Technical Education, and you also may have seen it on our social media platforms. This video is a little longer than normal, but we felt it was very important to take this 4 minutes and 24 seconds to highlight the outstanding work of these dedicated educators.
I'm Roxanne Fentress, and I'm proud to serve as the Career and Technical Education Director for San Angelo ISD. The mission of SAISD is to engage all students in a relevant and inspiring education that produces future-ready graduates. The CTE program aims to do just that. With 18 programs of study and 12 different career clusters, there's something for every student in SAISD. Our goal is to empower students with the knowledge, skills, and hands-on experience they need to succeed in their chosen careers.
At San Angelo ISD, we're preparing students for the future through our career and technical education programs. Our CTE courses offer students real-world skills, hands-on experiences, and pathways into high-demand careers across industries. Whether students are interested in healthcare, engineering, agriculture, the arts, or business, SAISD CTE programs provide a foundation in diverse career clusters, each designed to open doors to future success. With state-of-the-art computer equipment, virtual reality simulations, and industry-standard tools, we ensure our students are trained on the same resources they'll encounter in the workforce. By using the latest in technology and equipment, our students are prepared to step into their careers with confidence, working with tools and software that are current, relevant, and built for success in today's industries. Our programs are hands-on, bringing learning to life. From culinary arts, where students learn food safety and culinary techniques, to automotive, where they gain skills in repair and diagnostics. Each course prepares students for success in practical, impactful careers.
The reason why I like this program so much is because it just shows you different ways of cooking and different ways of preparing food. We took our test over food handlers. Every vendor in the state of Texas needs that, and it would help us on our resume.
My CNA and phlebotomy certifications mean a lot because it's going to help me in my healthcare career.
Through my time through this program, I've learned how to do concrete, roofing, plumbing, how to build walls, electrical, and this class is teaching me the basics of how to do it when I go into trade school.
Certifications in areas like graphic design, welding, and business provide our students with credentials that set them apart. Through partnerships with local businesses and community events, they gain real-world experience, often leading to job offers and internships. Students also have the chance to compete in organizations like TAFE for future educators and BPA for business professionals. These competitions build leadership, teamwork, and critical skills that will serve them well in any career. Our dedicated instructors, each with industry experience, guide students through learning and growth. Partnerships with local businesses and organizations provide students with mentorship, helping them develop both technical and interpersonal skills.
All of our career and technical education courses incorporate employability skills, where students learn those applicable soft skills of responsibility that employers are looking for. We're able to offer students those skills when they're involved in our courses, student leadership organizations, and certification programs. We want students to graduate from our programs with the tools they need to succeed in high-demand, high-wage occupations.
The SAISD CTE program opens pathways in industries like engineering, business, the arts, and agriculture. Whether students plan to enter the workforce or pursue higher education, the skills and experiences they gain here lay the foundation for their future.
Quality CTE programs are poised to provide the very solutions we need to address the talent and the skill shortage to come. That means we need to foster partnerships by getting businesses inside the schools and the schools inside the businesses. And to do that, we as a business community must invest the money and the time in education and training.
At San Angelo ISD, we're building tomorrow's professionals, creators, and innovators today. Join us and discover the endless opportunities that the CTE program has to offer.
Dr. Moran, at this time, would you please come for a picture with Mrs. Fentress? And any of the CTE teachers are welcome. I don't think they'll take me up on that, but you're welcome to come join the picture. Oh, they were brave souls. Thank you again.
Dr. Gomez, before we move on, how many districts in the state were able to get the distinction award?
35.
And how many districts are there in the state?
Many more than 35, well over 1,000.
Thank you. Great job, Mrs. Fentress. Next up, we're going to have Dr. Brandon, and he's going to help us with the month of the bus resolution.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, members of the board, many of our students spend a considerable amount of time each year on school buses. Administration recognizes that school buses are the safest form of transportation in the U.S. And this level of safety is made possible by the men and women driving, maintaining, monitoring, and overseeing our transportation system. We very much appreciate the members of our transportation department and the symbol of safety our yellow buses have come to represent in today's culture. So for February, Love the Bus Month, we have the following resolution. Whereas the yellow bus is among the most recognized icons of American schools and society, and whereas the school buses make up the largest mass transit system in the United States, and whereas research demonstrates that the yellow school bus is the safest mode of transportation for some 26 million American school children each day, and whereas yellow school buses are built to exact federal and state safety specifications, and school bus drivers are provided rigorous training, preparation, and testing to ensure the safety of our children, and whereas the yellow school bus provides access to education and learning for children who live in rural, suburban, and urban areas, including children who present with special needs. And whereas the yellow school bus enhances the educational experience but providing access to extracurricular activities such as field trips and sporting events. And whereas the yellow school bus contributes to improving our environment by reducing the number of vehicles that must be on the road to get our children to school each day. And whereas the men and women who manage and operate local school transportation systems are dedicated to the safety of all children, to ensuring efficiency and accountability in the delivery of school transportation services. Now therefore be it resolved that the San Angelo ISD recognizes the vital role that Yellow School Bus plays in our education enterprise and the life of our district. And be it further resolved that the San Angelo ISD declares the month of February 2025 to be Love the Bus Month in San Angelo ISD. We call upon our students, our families, our faculty and staff, and our community to recognize the work of our school transportation team and all they contribute to the well-being of our students. And at this time, we have to recognize our transportation department. We have our Lee Livingston, Director of Transportation, Jennifer Paz, Administrative Assistant to the Director, Kay Fuentes, Bus Driver, and Diana Alvarado, Transportation Router. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you, Dr. Brandon. All right, now we're going to move forward with public comments. First up, we're going to have Mrs. Karen Best regarding Bluebonnet.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you once again against the Bluebonnet curriculum, and I appreciate that several board members have visited with me about my concerns about Bluebonnet. I took the opportunity, and if I could ask, how many of you have read the readers or that have been provided, all of the readers that you're going to be reading? If you have, then you're going to notice some of the things I'm going to speak about tonight quickly. If you haven't, you should before you vote on it. I'm going to pick one. This is Grade 1, Foundational Skills Unit 1, Snapshots. And I'm going to read from it. Snapshots is listed as 2 words. It's a one-word word, but okay. And I'll make it quick because I've got to be fast. Beth. I am Beth. I am 10. I am at camp. Camp is fun. Once Mom and Dad went on a trip to the camp. All of us were at the camp. Dad and I went up on top of a path at the pond. Mom got a snapshot of us, misspelled. This is the snapshot, misspelled. Then Mom let us snap some shots. Dad got a snapshot, misspelled, of Mom. I got a snapshot, misspelled, of a dog with a hot dog. Cat and the trip to the UK. This is Cat. Cat is a kid I met at camp. I have a lot of snapshots, misspelled, of Cat. This is a snapshot, misspelled, of Cat with a fish. Cat and I had a lot of fun at camp, but then Cat's mom got a job in the UK. Cat left and I felt sad, but then Mom set up a trip to the UK. Mom and I went on a jet. Ships are fun and jets are the best. I got to sit next to the wing. I had lunch. Then I had a nap. Mom got this snapshot, misspelled, of the nap. Cat met us at the end of the ramp. I ran up to hug her. Then Cat's mom, Dot, got us a cab. This is a snapshot of us with the cab man. It goes on like this. It's pathetic. In fact, if you stay up until 2 a.m. like I did, which I can ill afford to do, because I have to be at a surgery with my son this week and should be on the road out of town. This is how important it is to me to stay here tonight and drive tonight after this to present about this. This is not education. This is not learning. If somebody along this distinguished line of educators think this is how you teach kids to read or you engage them in education, this is not it. This is not it. Who's accountable for this, what I'm going to call, for lack of a better word, crap? It's crap. And parents like myself shouldn't be staying up until 2 a.m. when we have educators who, all of you, care about our kids, but you have all of this pressure from the state to take this crap. I can't help that, and you can't help that, but at the end of the day, the members of this board represent the rest of us and every child in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Best. Next up, we're going to have Mrs. Ginger Moore.
Good evening. Ginger Moore, San Angelo. I have a master's in early childhood and also have taught English and psychology. And my issue I gave last time were all of the items that I felt were important. This time I'm focusing on 3 items. For one thing, Bluebonnet curriculum I am for, and I went to the State Board of Education to testify for it. And I listened to 100 people testify, by the way. I like the paper and pencil materials. Cursive from 2nd to 5th grade is back on paper and pencil. They have paper course books. They have no AI screen time at all, zip. The parent can look at it online, but the child is not online. And screen time causes, and we can go back and debate this, but poor achievement of developmental milestones in communication, motor skills, problem solving, and social skills. Higher likelihood of inadequate sleep, lower scores on thinking and language tests, social skills connections with more distracted, less emotional stability, sometimes difficulty making friends, and inability to finish tasks. Premature cortical thinning of the brain, and we have a couple doctors that probably know more about that. Increased depression symptoms with suicidal outcomes and rates are higher with those that stay on these iPads. And they're saying this is even for like 3- and 4-year-olds. The second thing is classical literature and historical documents. Although all of the books are not good, people have input into Bluebonnet curriculum. It belongs to the state. So if they would need something changed, they can go online and be a part of that. They're asking for people to do that. But our nation's founders had Judeo-Christian conservative values. In God we trust is everywhere. I put out signs for all the schools with that. Biblical references are to support classical and historical literature. And they used to be taught. That used to be part of the curriculum. The Bible is part of the literature. State Board of Education had a lawyer at the meeting to reference any issues, and he answered multiple issues on all of this. I assure you, Bluebonnet has been vetted. It incorporates Texas values and histories. It was written for Texas by Texas. The third thing is Bluebonnet is free, plus $60 per child for materials. All paper products are paid. You can pay for with the $60, and you won't have to pay for the iPads, except in 3rd grade because the STAR test. But the STAR test is being changed to meet Texas Bluebonnet. Oh.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Next, we have Mrs. Angela Bible regarding Bluebonnet.
Sorry, I'm short. Hi, I'm Angela Bible. I am a teacher at San Angelo ISD, and I just started this year. I was drawn here for several reasons. One of the reasons was what a wonderful and diverse people group that I was going to get to teach. And another was the excellence that the San Angelo ISD has shown time and time again towards having an education that is worthwhile. One in which the teacher actually has a voice, an opinion, and gets to inject their passion. One in which overall in Texas, this particular issue is being driven back. As we saw with C-Scope several years ago, with that whole debacle, we had a curriculum which was completely written. We had exemplar lessons. They came out. They were wonderful. Some of them weren't. And so then we had to have all of that pulled back completely. And I still have some of those C-Scope curriculum components. I liked some of them. Some of them were fantastic. Some of them were not. But I like having the capacity to say, yes, this component is amazing. This component is not. I also don't see the peer vetting and review that is necessary. Not all of the curriculum is even out yet. Not all of it is even printed yet. Not all of it is even able to us to see yet. I am afraid that San Angelo ISD is not an ISD that has the capacity to absorb all of the lawsuits and other issues that might come if this is not one of the things that that ends up being as good as we think it might be, because we don't know yet. We don't have to adopt this year for it to be something that we adopt. I think that even if we do want to adopt this does turn out to be something that is amazing and wonderful and good. Let's give it a year. Let's see how this goes for everybody else. Finally, like I said before, the ability for teachers to instill passion in their lessons. I come here because I could come and teach about the thing that I am super passionate about. I get to teach about plants and soil. And I know that sounds like super something crazy that you might be excited about, but I love plants and I get to talk about that. I get to bring people into my classroom that also love to talk about that. And I would not have that room if I'm scripted every single sentence of every single lesson.
Thank you, Mrs. Bible. Next, we have Mrs. Gretchen Smith regarding high-quality instructional materials.
Good evening. I come here not only as an educator, but also in my second job. I am the Director of Christian Education at St. Paul Presbyterian Church. I also do supply preaching, which is basically a substitute teacher for churches, substitute preacher. So I started to dig into this curriculum as a person who is very theologically founded and theologically driven. And as I started going through it, I found some significant gaps in what exists in this material. As a community, we have, and as a district, we have developed this idea of the future-ready learner. We have developed this learner profile that is what we want to see in our students by the time they make it from kindergarten to graduation, right? We have this idea that we want them to think differently, be able to problem solve, connect globally with different things. And I don't see how we connect globally with different ideas with an America-centric, Christ-centric curriculum. We're supposed to, part of our goal is to raise learners who exhibit flexibility, adaptability, curiosity, and innovation. As I'm looking through, I spent a lot of time particularly on the kindergarten reading for some reason. And the teacher has a script. And the teacher has a script, and they're supposed to read this script, and they're supposed to pause and ask this question. And there's an idea of what the student's supposed to answer, which is hilarious if you've ever been in a kindergarten classroom. And you're supposed to show these color printed cards that show the picture to go with the stories. And in the 9 years I taught elementary, 5 of them in this district, I never had access to a color printer. So I first want to ask where that's coming from. Because I'm looking at this idea of $60 per student, and I'm looking at the massive number of worksheets that need to be printed out, and I know that a ream of paper is, what, $45? We have invested in iPads, we have invested in technology, we have invested in infrastructure, we've invested in computers and technology, and I understand the desire to go back to paper and pencil, but worksheets don't build dendrites. Stacks and stacks of poorly developed worksheets do not actually do what this ideal of pencil and paper is. We want to engage students. As an educator, I am evaluated on my ability to differentiate, to monitor and adjust, and to engage with my students. As I looked through the curriculum, there were no suggestions for how to modify this curriculum for high-achieving students, for special education students, for cross-curricular things. The things that I am supposed to do as an educator aren't in this curriculum where I could find it. The only thing I could find was for my emerging bilingual students, which is an important population, but not my only students with needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Next, we have Mr. Daniel Counts regarding the bond.
Good evening, board. I come here tonight to thank you for your hard work and your dedication. I don't think y'all hear that enough from the citizens. But the reality is we have a trust issue right now. The citizens do not trust what you're doing with our money. We don't trust the decisions you are making with our children's future. I exhort you to think when you go home, are you leading with humility? If you think you are, you're not being humble enough. Do you think that you are leading with transparency? You're not being transparent enough. Anything that you think you may be excelling at, you're not doing enough for the citizens, because we don't feel that in our hearts. So as a parent, with children in the school system, we want to know that when we spend our tax money, we are supporting our children. When we spend our tax money, we are directly linking that to our children and how they feel if they're supported. Y'all are the business wing of San Angelo School District, but your business is to further the education of our children. You're not in the business of building buildings. You're in the business of helping our children further their education and supporting the entire citizen population. So my goal was not to get cut off by the bell. So I just want y'all to go home tonight and think, we do appreciate you. As citizens, you may have some citizens that might be a thorn in your side that come up and, tell you everything you're doing wrong. You do some good things and some things that are right, and this bond is really needed. But what's needed along with this bond is a trust being built back up with the citizens. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Counts. Next, and I apologize, I don't know which page was next, so I apologize, but we're going to go with Ms. Carla Cardenas regarding community perspective.
Every time something happens in a neighborhood like theirs, they want to scream injustice. Dude, just because now you have to drive more than 5 minutes to get your kids to school, it's a problem? Everything in San Angelo is 20 minutes or less. Get over it already. I worry about the closing of schools because we are already so short-staffed in our department, and having more kids further away from school will put a lot of pressure on our department. I'm just really worried for the future, Carla. If only you could see what happens on these buses. It's getting shut down, okay, no matter what you say, so get over it. Get used to the lies. They run this country. I read in an article that the best way for schools to have control is by eliminating the neighborhood schools. That's all they want, is the control. Neighborhood schools are the only home that so many students have. 31 years experience as a teacher has taught me this. No trust, no bond. You don't want to pass the bond, then be ready to leave it to your kids as a big mess, and that will be on you. We have been lied to constantly. Why should I believe anything they say? I'm voting no. I'm voting yes. I thought I knew who my real friends were. I guess I know now. Stop bringing up the past already. Just move on. Oh, you really think she did something good? All she did was make a mess for us at San Jacinto. We had to move all of our classrooms because of y'all fighting over a broke down school. Is it not obvious? Why would they disrespect the head of their school's PTO? They just don't like her. Reports show lack of maintenance since the 2022 school year, when it was advised to have immediate repairs done that would not be very costly in comparison. They just lied to us. Man, I'm transferring my kids out of SAISD. I'm sick of this. This is a separation right now within our community, within San Angelo. So many other things being spewed at each other that I myself wouldn't even feel comfortable reading today. The division is unreal. I personally believe that the lack of transparency from the top has played its role in this entire situation. Where's your accountability? I have spoken with many board members and told them that the only way to try to bridge this huge gap right now between our people is to be sincere in what has happened in the past and to be honest. We know the truth and you know the truth, but we need to hear it publicly. Now, while it is true that you cannot change the past, you can learn from it, build on it, grow from it, and start fresh. You all are the leaders of our school system, and it starts at the top. If the people don't believe in you, how can they trust you? Sincerity and empathy go a very long way. Stop hiding important details that we deserve to know. The truth of the matter is we are in a hole right now. How we got there, well, that's for another 3 minutes. But we can start now and try to bring this city back together, and it all starts with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cardenas. Next, we have Ms. Shannon Payne regarding the Bluebonnet curriculum.
Hi, my name is Shannon Payne. I want to begin by telling you that I am a former SAISD student from a very long time ago, the mother of 2 SAISD students, a middle schooler and a high schooler, y'all pray for me, and an SAISD teacher of 19 years. I want to tell you about just a couple of my concerns with the Bluebonnet curriculum. The first I'll mention, but will not dwell on because I know you've heard it, is the infusion of biblical teachings into the reading curriculum. Just to give a few examples, the reading curriculum includes kindergarten reading lessons on the creation story as told in Genesis, and asks comprehension questions like, what did God create on the 3rd day? It includes a 1st grade lesson on the story of the prodigal son. Now, I'm a Christian. I've raised my children as Christians, and I love every student that crosses my path in the way that my God leads me to do. However, I do not want to be responsible for the spiritual and religious growth of children in a public school setting. Nor do I want other public school teachers directly teaching my children religion or spirituality. That is not our place. It goes beyond towing the line between church and state, and it puts teachers in a precarious position. My other issue is my academic concerns. For this year, I have been teaching what is the current version of what will be Bluebonnet curriculum. It is called Amplify. My concerns are many, so I'm going to list them in bullet points with as much time as I have. There is a notable absence of a variety of quality, high-interest children's literature. All of the reading, both to and by students, come from what is essentially a basal reader, a book written specifically for this curriculum. Children don't have the opportunity to explore different genres, authors, illustrators, or topics. They only have time for what is force-fed to them. There is no way to foster a love of books or reading within that structure. The material and pacing is not adequate for what is needed to pass the STAR test or show adequate growth in reading and academic readiness. Students don't do enough reading. In my 3rd grade curriculum, there have been days in which the read aloud portion of my lesson is 75 minutes. That's me reading to 9-year-olds for 75 minutes. You couldn't even listen to me for 75 minutes. I can't stand to listen to me for 75 minutes, and I go home with no voice. As a result, I'm becoming a great reader. I have some misgivings about my students. While I do believe in the value of paper and pencil, more than you know, I believe more in the value of student-created products. This curriculum leaves no room for that by packing every second of each lesson with teacher-led learning and approximately 5 to 6 worksheets per day. That's busy work. The scripted nature of the curriculum negates my expertise, my education, my experience, my professionalism, and possibly most importantly, my knowledge of and my relationship with my students by giving me a script to follow. And I don't get enough time to hear individual students or small groups of students read, and as a result, I know less about what further support and instruction they need from me.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Next, we have Ms. Alexandra Looning.
Hi, my name is Alex Lunning. I am not a teacher. I am a mom of 2 SAISD kids, though, and this curriculum is really important to me. I spent every moment of the past 2 days reading through what my kindergarten son will see next year and my daughter that will be in 3rd grade at Bonham next year. I was really moved by your words last week in support of the upcoming bond election. I agree that our community needs to prioritize the safety and education of children, not just my own, but every child in this city to ensure the success and future of San Angelo. I also understand we need a new curriculum and something's got to change, and Texas Bluebonnet has been presented as high quality, and it's got a great financial incentive that comes with it. But I'm really concerned that Texas Bluebonnet is not the path towards a well-rounded education for the children in San Angelo and their brighter future. So I know supporters say we should teach about religion, especially the Bible, because it's important for just a frame of reference for students. I believe that the actual text of this curriculum goes far beyond that. I went to private religious school, and this curriculum has more religion and Christian-centered content with the idea that the United States is a Christian nation protected by God than I ever saw in my private religious education, which really, really concerns me. I read through next year, my kindergarten son will be given an extensive lecture, a lot of just talking about, and with follow-up sequencing activities and discussions about the book of Genesis as just one of the examples. Our oldest elementary students, which my daughter will be there in a blink of an eye, will get a version of Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail that sanitizes it so extensively that the true meaning of that letter feels very much stripped away. Of course, then that lesson on letter from a Birmingham jail is also followed by a Bible lesson related to what MLK Jr. was referencing. I fear that high quality, relevant lessons that encourage critical thinking have been sacrificed in order to promote a very narrow characterization of the history and origins of our country. My children have excellent teachers and administration. I know that there is no perfect curriculum. That is absolutely the truth. However, I know they'll do their best to remain neutral. I don't think even the best efforts of the staff can make up for the thinly veiled bias within this curriculum. We love SAISD and San Angelo. We enthusiastically support and recommend these local schools to anyone literally that will listen. And as local property owners, we would support the proposed bond in a heartbeat. However, if SAISD adopts the Texas Bluebonnet curriculum, it would leave San Angelo without a school that offers secular curriculum, and that's, I think, a shame for our community and not something I can personally support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Looning. Next, we have Ms. Bree Berger.
Hello. I am a local military spouse, and one thing that we don't really get to choose is where we live. And San Angelo has a really special relationship with the base because we do, a lot's happened there. It's a symbiotic relationship, okay? That's for another time. However, I am not from Texas. My children are not from Texas. My children are half Jewish, and I think that bringing biblical-based curriculum into the school is what a private school is for. It's not what a public school is for. This is, you know, the separation of church and state. And, you know, we're not going to end here. My kids will not graduate from school here, but I know many military families that don't support this. This area has a lot of options for spiritually based education, and that should remain outside of the public school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Berger. Next, we have Mr. Jesse Ramon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. The first time I stood at this podium, I introduced myself despite being called an outsider as a resident of San Angelo for a very long time. And I came to San Angelo to attend a private Catholic school. That's how I ended up here in San Angelo at the ripe age of 10. And just to echo those sentiments, that's exactly what private Christian-based schools are for. That choice of education by my family was elected very specifically instead of the public school system. Now, as a longtime resident of San Angelo, I am an adult educator. I'm responsible for writing curriculum, reviewing it, and making revisions. And I can't seem to get my hands on this Bluebonnet curriculum to review it extensively, and I can't imagine you are able to get the complete items as well. So to ask to vote on something that you don't have tangibly in front of you to be able to look through seems very, very outrageous. And again, as an adult educator, there's opportunities for me to expand in conversations that are introduced and elaborate. And part of my annual performance review by my employer is seeing how well I go off script, how well I do introduce topics and provide my own personalization and the ability to help them understand it without just reading from a script. And that is exactly what Bluebonnet does over and over and over. And you're essentially just asking these educators to turn into self-checkouts that just kind of feed out a receipt. And it's just not productive. It's not comprehensive. And to ask our educators to introduce a topic, but give them a point that they have to stop, that they cannot expand on, and expect them to go home and finish that conversation with their parents or their church, that's exactly why those conversations and topics just need to stay at home and in their church. It's the other thing that was mentioned was transparency. And again, this school district has long-standing prided itself on its transparency. And I just, again, find it extremely ironic that you would be voting on materials that lack transparency. And the items that have been transparent have included a number of revisions, and they still continue to be problematic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. All right, that concludes our public comments section. We're going to move forward with our agenda into our information items, which will be a facility update by Dr. Brandon first.
Good evening again. Just wanted to circle back after last month's discussion, we've gone over the Park Hill facilities assessment in some detail, in-depth detail for all facilities, and then the question of our support facilities was also an offspring of that conversation as we look around the district. And so this, rather than hundreds of pages of a report, this chart gives you the major systems of any of our buildings, and then whether that needs repair, replace now, 5 years out, within 5 years, and then replace beyond 5 years. And so you see a lot of items that are repair or replace now. For multiple campuses, facilities across the district, you see not only elementary school campuses and campuses that were in district, and then those that are support facilities, transportation, which we've talked about, that the city actually owns that facility. It's a shared arrangement, and then we have other campuses listed. And then most of that being repair or replace now is due to the age of the structure. And as you look across Blackshear, Day, and Rio Vista, Sam Houston, those elementaries all being built in similar time periods, and 71 years old, 72, 75. We have buildings over 100 years old. There's just some things that are hard to remediate over that period of time. Major electrical systems, major foundation systems, the plumbing that was put in place 75 and 80 years ago. So and honestly, the only way to make those replacements is a bond. The state, we've had several finance discussions. The state does not send school districts money to build buildings. They only send the money to educate the students in the classroom, provide for buses, provide for meals, and then you work through the rest of it to provide curriculum and other items. But as far as building a structure, that's just like we've talked about with a home mortgage, right? You're going to add a major renovation to your home. You're going to put in a pool. Normally, you just don't open up the checkbook. Sometimes that would be great, but we talk about a bond for that. So as we talk about these facilities at the moment and the time that we're in, it's what other facilities do we have in the district that we could be made available that aren't 75 and 80 years old. So we've kind of started that process. There's other buildings in the district that may only be 30 or 40 years old, which still may seem like a lot, but even half of that time, you can imagine the improvements that were made over a 40-year period, both in electrical, plumbing, foundation. So that's the process that we're in right now, is looking at all of the other buildings, and are there ways to move children from 80, 90, 100-year-old buildings into those other buildings that may only be 40 years old and require less remodel or upgrade to major systems in the building. So we've started the process of assessing each one of those and then asking different directors of programs, whether that be special education, bilingual, child nutrition, maintenance and facilities, walking each of those facilities and asking the questions, what works for your program? What do you not have, or what's limiting to your program at the moment that we might be able to improve upon in some sort of move within the district? So those conversations are being had with each one of them. And then through those conversations, we also need to be cognizant of taxpayer money and what the decisions that we're making that are a savings to the district. to our families. And then you see some of the financial efficiencies that arise from being able to move from 80, 100-year-old structure to some of our, what you would call newer buildings in the district. Reduced staffing, anytime that, if you think about if you had 2 separate campuses, 2 school resource officers, 2 secretaries, 2 cafeteria managers, 2 custodians, 3, 4 grounds workers. If you're able to move into one that is a newer facility, there's also efficiencies within electricity, gas, water, the things that were done over time to improve those types of efficiencies. And then reduced facility and maintenance. And then eventually, if one of the oldest structures in the building is vacated or raised, then the savings that comes from not paying out additional property and casualty insurance. We have some vacated properties that once the insurance company would tell you once that it's not used for its original purpose, they'll no longer cover it within the insurance. A good example of that is the old Lincoln Gym on the north side of town. I mean, it's just a very old structure that the plumbing, infrastructure, foundation issues, HVAC, flooring. So we've used that for several years now as a warehouse type facility with furniture items. And so the insurance company informed us we're not going to cover it, right, as a gymnasium in your district because that's not the purpose it's being used for. So trying to be efficient within the district and letting the board know exactly those conversations that we're having through all programs to try to define what are the best facilities in the district for our students and staff to be in. Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Brandon?
What we'd like to do is ultimately those conversations will lead to a recommendation in either March or April if we're able to do any other consolidation or consolidating programs into a facility.
Thank you. All right. Next we have Dr. Gomez, and she's going to give us a STEM and robotics academic update.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board, earlier we had our robotics recognition. At this time, we will have our academic update for both STEM and robotics. I would like to recognize some key educators that bring this to life every day in our school districts. They don't always like it when I do this, but this recognition is very deserved. So in the overall recognition, I announce them by name. Now I'm going to ask them to come to the podium. So Ms. Feck, Mr. Lagon, as our digital innovation facilitators, if you would please come up. Mrs. Barton, I will not have you come up, but I will just ask that you wave from the back. So this evening, they have captured the overview of STEM and robotics in San Angelo ISD. As you all know and can proudly see in this boardroom, the mission of San Angelo ISD is there in front of you. So as educators, we plan and design from what we call a backwards design. We always start from the high school level and work down. How do we produce these future-ready graduates? So STEM and robotics can't just start in high school. We have to start exposing our students at a very early age. And that's the great work that the educators I've mentioned, plus the coaches that you saw this evening, and many more that weren't able to be here, that they do on a daily basis in San Angelo ISD. So at this time, I'm going to call the two of you. I don't know who's going first.
And I'm going to be real quick because I just want to kind of elaborate a little bit of what Dr. Gomez said. especially when we start in the elementary school when it comes to STEM, it's very easy to look in the window of the classroom and it look like the kids are just playing. You know, they've got little toys out there and they're piecing the things together. But if you take a step inside the building and you actually watch and you listen to the conversations that the students are having and the way that they're having to think critically through whatever challenge is being handed to them, problem solve, work together to create something, to innovate something, is a truly magical thing. And having my own children in this district that are experiencing that, it's truly something that's amazing. And to then visit with students in middle school that were in elementary school participating in the things that we were doing and saying, wow, look what I'm doing now. It used to be I was just putting these Legos together and now I'm programming them to move around and throw a ball. And then the next thing I know, I might be inventing something we don't even know about yet. So it's amazing to be a part of that. And thank you, board, for supporting that and everything that we do, because it's not just playing. So with that said, we want to just take you on a little journey of what it looks like starting from the elementary and the journey that it goes.
STEM and SAISD is awesome. It might look like we're just playing around, but we're actually learning skills that will help us now and in the future. In elementary school, we dive into teamwork and collaboration, explore cybersecurity, and use the engineering design process to create and build. We test our ideas, make changes, and improve our designs, just like real engineers.
I think when I scoop it, it's probably going to pick up more. Bro! It broke! Just like, we need to make any modifications? I need bed tape now. Okay. I think I need to take these three off, because I think it's getting heavy when I do this, it falls.
We've all been introduced to computational thinking, and we really get to put it into practice during coding challenges, build projects, and especially with robotics.
Okay, so this is the brain, and in here is the battery, and this is like some of your programs and steps and everything. These are all the codes, so like to drive forward and then reverse.
Autonomous drive, which is where our robot drives by itself. We're also thinking of putting our distance sensor in the front instead of the optical sensor. Brain, our main part that we put all of our codes and stuff, it has a sensor on it. But our distance sensor is only facing backwards. So we need to put our distance sensor in the front so it knows what's in front of it, so it knows it can drive in front.
And now that I know what I know, I'm ready for STEM in middle school.
Like, first they kept breaking down this little thing right here, just so we put a little washer at the end of it so it wouldn't stop falling out. Our team, we got 3rd place in our last competition.
I also joined robotics last year as in like elementary, and I was like interested in captivated by its design, programming, and overall it's just like a cool thing to learn about. Perseverance is definitely one of those things, because we had to do autonomous challenges and sat here had enough perseverance to actually make it through. So I think that's really a good skill.
Cybersecurity is more than just coding. It's about protecting information and solving real-world problems. They're learning how to think like IT professionals.
In Cyber Patriots, the entire goal is to secure networks. Cyber Patriots helped me learn how to like actually stay on task and stay focused for long periods of time. Because I personally want to go into the military, and the Air Force has a really good cybersecurity program. High school courses like computer science and engineering, that would help a lot with those.
On to high school. The CTE pathway is perfect for future engineers like me.
The only requirement, the major requirement, is that it has to be a closed circle on the inside. It has to be a certain amount.
Ultimately, it's just problem solving. Of course, a little bit of math comes around here. You need to have a good understanding of math. And knowing how to do stuff by yourself and being independent. A lot of us, we have too many options and what we want to do when we get older, it's a little bit hard to choose. With all these classes that they've given us and all these opportunities, it just opens a lot of doors for, different opportunities that can benefit us throughout life.
I am set for STEM, and SAISD is setting me up for success. The skills I'm learning today will help me in the future. Let's get future ready.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So that's just a little picture of what it looks like and just the progression of where it can grow and really where our future is. And, we've talked a lot about what our students need and what we need for them to be future ready. And we've got to get them prepared for jobs that don't even exist yet. And we've got to be ready, and we've got to make sure that our students have what they need to be successful. And so I thank you guys for that support once again. As the kids move on from middle school and into high school, we want to continue those opportunities, especially in the CTE program. My partner here, would you like to add anything to that? She said she is all good. I'm so shy talking in a microphone, so normally, but it's truly been a teamwork effort, and we've all been really working well together with the classroom teachers, STEM teachers, and everybody just really seeing the bigger picture of where things can grow. So we just wanted to keep going and keep being future ready, and let's get some really cool kids out here inventing and creating some really cool things to take care of us in the future. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Board team, we have questions.
If I could just make a comment. I got to go to the robotics competition, and I just wanted to thank the coaches and the staff and the parents for coming and spending the day on that entire Saturday. It was a great day, and to spend the time watching the kids try to figure out, problem solve, and to see the excitement and the disappointment, but then they come back and they're like, oh wait, I know how to fix this. It was so exciting. It was my first robotics competition that I'd been to. I'd always wanted to go and was excited to have the opportunity, but thank you for making that happen in San Angelo, and I look forward to seeing it grow.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other?
I was just going to say thank you, Brandon. Every time I see a video of the kids with doing the robotics or with STEM and all that, their creativity, there it's on. I'm loud enough, aren't I? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Gerard.
That's what I thought. She's a teacher. She was a teacher. Anyway, watching what they do and the creativity that they they just, I have to talk about this with a lot of people. They'll go, well, what about our kids? What about our kids today? I said, our kids are very, very creative. They are very creative and far thinking. I've had people tell me they're always on these, they're always on that, and they're always on that. But, this thing's got more data in it than what took a ship to the moon. And what did that? Creativity. Creativity, things these kids are doing today. Every time I see the robotics kids, they got the little soccer ball thing. It's got the little designs on it. Y'all seen those, right? Mm. Well, I was reading one day that when they built the first atomic bomb, they couldn't figure out how to implode it to make it explode. And I think a guy by the name of Alvarez and Johnston, they developed the detonation system that they got the idea from a soccer ball. And it's just that kind of thinking, that creativity to solve a problem. So that's just stuff like that. And I know these kids are going to go far. I have a lot of faith in our kids. I really do. I'm not worried. I even tell my kids, I'm not worried. Y'all are going to do fine. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
And thank y'all for everything y'all do. And I was talking to those welders from CTE last week. Boy, them kids can weld.
Oh,
they
yeah.
really, really can.
Absolutely.
I was really impressed with them. So.
Well, that was why we wanted to make it a point to not just show them doing the things. It's real easy to just see a little video of them playing and things, but actually to hear them express what they're doing, explain their processes, talk about all that. That's the magic in that, is that they're really able to explain their process, think through their problem, and use a lot of big words that I know when Mr. Skinner was talking up there, y'all didn't know what he was talking about when he was talking about that color sensor and stuff, but we nod and we say, yeah, that sounds good, right? But they know, and they're able to articulate that, and that's huge to be able to do that. And so every kid that was speaking on that video, there was not a script that was handed to them. That was just a conversation, and that's what came out of that. So I think that, like you said, Gerard, I'm not worried either. These guys got it. So thank you so much.
You don't get to leave yet. Sorry. Also, thank you. And we've come a long way in robotics over the last, and STEM over the last several years. Just as far as an update, how many of our campuses are STEM? How many have a robotics team now? How many have a teacher for all of those things? And what are we doing for the programs that don't have it yet?
We are currently, all of our elementary staff campuses all have a STEM teacher, where the students are all going regularly to see their teachers. We have, I'm going to say, 7, correct me if I'm wrong, 6 or 7 of our elementary school campuses that are participating in the robotics competitions right now. However, all 15 have all of the materials and have all of the things and are doing robotics within their classrooms. Some are not quite ready to compete, but are working towards getting there. But we all have all the things, and so we're just kind of working and building up the confidence within our teams and getting them ready. There's a lot of bells and a lot of logistical things that come into getting ready for a competition. And as we're getting our feet wet and as we're getting ready to go, and Ms. Barton has been a really integral piece in getting that part together and helping and supporting all of our campuses to make sure that they have what they need to start. And then we come in and help them get it going and get moving with that. So we are getting there to get all of our campuses ready to go. But right now we have about 7 that are actually competing, but they all are experiencing and building with the VEX robotics within their STEM labs.
One more question. We just have it for the elementary and the middle school, correct?
No, actually.
The robotics. Does it extend in like the robotics?
It keeps going, Gerard. It keeps going
to high school where the kids can compete in robotics?
Yes, we have some high schools that are competing. And I believe Stanley is one of their coaches right over there.
Okay, great.
And
great. Okay.
I do both. I do the IQs so that I go down and I help the elementaries. And they come to me, so they see me. I know it's important for my kids to see Mr. Walker in the high school, so I kind of ask them to over. So we go to work every 2 hours there.
Okay.
So they can sort of
okay. Okay, thank you. Good.
And Mr. Walker actually has engineering, but he also has robotics at Lakeview and at Central. He teaches at both campuses.
Mr. Walker was the high school educator previewed in the video.
Yeah.
All right. Any other board questions or comments? All right, now y'all get to go.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Next, we have item 7, which is consent items A through F. So that's donations, our minutes from our January 13th, 2025 pre-agenda, our minutes from our January 21st, 2025 regular board meeting. It's bid number 20-009, maintenance, transportation, and miscellaneous supplies. That was an ad. RFQ 25.01.28, which was fine arts instruments. RFQ 25.01.30, which was playgrounds and shade structures, and 23-018 new vehicles. Those were all discussed at our pre-agenda meeting. Do I have a motion to approve items A through F?
I'll make a motion to approve consent items A through F.
And do I have a second?
I second.
So I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Mrs. Arroyo. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. All right, so now we have financial action items. Action item A is our bills, accounts, and financial statements for December 2024 and January 2025. As a reminder, these were all discussed at our pre-agenda workshop, and all our financial statements are available on our website at sasd.org. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding our bills, accounts, and financial statements from December and January? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills, accounts, and financial statements for December 2024 and January 2025.
I'll second.
So I have a motion from Dr. Mills and a second from Mrs. Mizell Flint. Any other board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we have a proposed amendment for district official budget, general funds as of February 18th, 2025. Is Hope here? She's not, is she? We know we talked about this last week. I just don't want to give anyone not the ability to walk up to the mic if they don't want to. So this is a proposed amendment accounting for the passage of Proposition A back in November, and it's an increase in revenue and expenditures in the amount of $4,842,290 to our general fund budget. Any questions regarding that budget amendment? Do I have a motion to approve that budget amendment?
I am too.
It's on page 89. I can make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the general fund budget amendment for February 18th, 2025 with which results in which changes to function codes, which results in no monetary differences and an increase in revenue and expenditures in the amount of $4,842,290. Do I have a second?
Second.
So a motion for myself and a second for Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we have item C, which is consider House Bill 1605 and instructional materials. Dr. Gomez.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board, we've been having discussions for an extended period of time now. As educators, we've been deeply involved in this process for over 6 months as the state has modified and created a new process around instructional materials referred to as the Instructional Materials Review and Approval, or IMRA process. Through House Bill 1605 came many changes that we've previously shared. This evening, we will highlight those, but I do want to remind everyone we've had extensive conversations. The IMRA process has created new criteria from the State Board of Education for approval. Criteria under this process includes TEKS coverage. So again, in education, we have a lot of acronyms. At times, it's its own language. The TEKS are the actual curriculum. They stand for the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And any educator in the state of Texas that serves in a public school setting under the authority of the Texas Education Agency is required to teach the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. Criteria also includes quality, suitability for the grade and content area, free from factual error, this is according to their criteria, no harmful content or other statutory compliance, and the new addition of the parent portal compliance. Throughout our conversations, we have discussed, and we will recap this evening, financial impacts for schools. You have heard and will continue to hear of additional funding on top of the state's regular instructional materials and technology allotment, provided to school districts that choose to use what is referred to as a State Board of Education approved material. That additional funding is what you've heard to be the $40 per student.
Fair, Ms. Gomez. Now, I guess for the audience, SBOE, the State Board of Education.
Yes.
And the TEA. Are they the same entity?
No.
They're not the same. So
the State Board of Education and the Texas Education Agency are not the same, but the State Board of Education sets policies that the Texas Education Agency has to work under, and public schools and public charter schools have to work under the parameters set forth by the agency.
Okay, thank you.
You will also, and have heard and will continue to hear, of an additional entitlement of up to $20 for districts printing the state-owned materials. That's important because there's still some confusion about what is state-owned versus what is not state-owned. As we've stated, the parent transparency is a new key component. Not to deflect and talk about me as a person outside my professional setting, but I have had both of my children go through San Angelo ISD, and many of our educators serve in dual roles as educators and parents. And the district believes more than anything that parent involvement and parent education around what their students are being taught is more important than ever. So this bill does require that school districts establish a forum for parents to see the curriculum and materials that are being used in our classrooms. Now, as I've mentioned and will continue to highlight, the state-owned textbook was the biggest change in this bill and in the revision of the process. So this requires TEA to develop state-owned textbooks that are subject to approval from the State Board of Education. So Mr. Gallegos, to go back to your question, remember there's the State Board of Education, SBOE, and the Texas Education Agency. Correct. The TEKS, again, which mean the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, which are the actual curriculum that all educators are required to teach, are to be reviewed and revised. So as part of this process, it does require a new vocabulary and book list for those RLA, Reading Language Arts standards. It does create more flexibility and review and revision in that schedule. And this is super important because not everyone understands this. It does prohibit the use of 3Qing in phonics materials. And so you've heard us previously talk about the requirement for all primary educators to be trained in reading academies, and that is the specific instruction that teaches the science of reading and why we do not use the 3Qing system. And then, very important, I wish more than anything as an educator of 29 years that the average tenure and experience of our educators was at that 19-20 mark. It is not. Currently in San Angelo ISD this spring, we have 7 clinical teachers. There are less and less teachers coming into the profession. Of those 7 clinical teachers, what some might know as student teachers, only one of those candidates is seeking elementary certification. So as not only the state of Texas, but the nation is going through a teacher crisis, there is specific protection for teacher time. That states that teachers cannot be required to use their planning time to create initial instructional materials unless there is a supplemental agreement. As we've previously discussed and as you were accustomed to under the instructional material technology allotment, that is the funding that comes with the state based on a school district's student enrollment count. So the IMTA, or if you're not accustomed to the T being in there for the technology piece, because that funding does allow for devices, because we are also required to teach technology skills. So that funding is all bundled in one. It's not textbooks and technology separate. Your funding from the state is all combined. And that's all a district gets to buy those resources for the entire grade span of a school district. The district receives that general funding allotment, and then the 2 new pieces are the additional funding that came forward with House Bill 1605 is specific to the State Board of Education approved instructional materials. So districts have their normal allotment and then the 2 additional entitlements, which you're hearing referred to of $40 and $20 for an extra $60. What's important to note through this is decisions are not ever made solely on money. Decisions are made on what's best for each student in the overall enrollment in a district. So your state board approved entitlement And your open education resource entitlement is based on your overall enrollment, not just limited to the number of students in the grade spans where there is a state board approved instructional material. So specifically, we could use the example, if there's a material just on the approved list for K-5, the entitlement is based on all students in that district, not just your K-5 enrollment. You will also note there that the IMTA allotment is biennial. The state board approved instructional materials entitlement is annual, and it does carry over. So if there are any balances in the funding that were not used, it will roll forward. On the state developed open education resource entitlement, it's annually, but any unexpended balances do not carry over. So specifically for our district, when we're discussing the state board approved instructional materials entitlement, that's approximately an additional $1 million for the school district if a state board approved instructional material is adopted. For the state developed open education resource, that's an approximate $237,000, $240 for the district. So with both entitlements, it's an additional $1.2 million of funding for the school district. So how did we get here? Again, as for over 6 months, the district has been working, examining the evolution of what can be recommended. This did not just happen overnight. So you have the timeline, and as you all are aware, the district is currently using Amplify in elementary for reading language arts and Eureka for math in grades 3 through 5. Those resources were available through the state's COVID Emergency Response Act. All of that curriculum was free for access digitally. So the cost of print, the cost of readers, the cost of teacher manuals was all at a district's expense. With House Bill 1605, as the traditional proclamation process ended, and last spring we were able to make recommendations for our final proclamation, you'll see that after this school year is the evolution of Bluebonnet Learning. So Bluebonnet Learning is the Texas version, which is 100% aligned to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, whereas the Amplify, Eureka, and Texas Math Solution, or Carnegie, that we are currently using were the national versions. That's the difference in the curriculum resources. So we have shared this. We've had extensive conversations on what the state is allowing school districts to present for adoption. The next 3 slides, I know it's very fine print, but we've poured over this, shows the materials that are considered State Board of Education approved. So in order to receive the additional entitlement of a little over $1 million for San Angelo ISD, the district would have to adopt one of these resources. Just skimming through here, you can see publisher names. You can see publisher names such as Savas, Texas Education Agency. I want to highlight that because as we talk state-owned textbook, you will see the Texas Education Agency listed, and then specifically you see Bluebonnet Learning. Now you will see partial subjects when you see Amplify, and notice that's only the phonics component. So when we talk about student readers, for it to be a high quality instructional materials, readers are a component of the program, which provides students with less complex to more complex text as they learn to be readers. That's teaching skill in materials that are appropriate for the grade level of the students. The knowledge component, which is not on the State Board approved education list, that provides experiences through literature, is not on here from Amplify alone, which is what we currently have. So the only option there would be the Texas Education Agency version. So lastly, what's important for the board to consider for local control? Districts have local discretion when selecting instructional materials. The State Board of Education reviews the materials that any school district can bring forward for recommendation. Again, in statute, and what we firmly believe in San Angelo ISD, is parental involvement. Parents have a right to review all instructional materials. Parents have a right to temporarily remove a child from a class. As both a former primary teacher and a former reading specialist, I spent many years teaching young students how to read. Also, outside of my professional duties, through my own church, I've taught religious education. We do not believe that it is an educator's responsibility to teach the religion. It is an obligation from the State Board of Education and the Texas Education Agency that we teach about religion. But there are lines, and specifics should be discussed in the home. That is not our place as educators. So as we come forward to make a recommendation to the board, I personally don't believe there is a perfect resource. I do believe in great teachers. From the options we have to offer, we do believe Bluebonnet Learning is the best resource we can recommend. For number one, the standards alignment. It is our obligation to teach the TEKS. However, the craft of teaching is what is most important. The voice of good teachers must and should always be most prominent in our classrooms. We currently have systems when there are lessons, and there are, in all of our resources, that we have to make local decisions. So along with the local decisions on what to adopt, it's a district's local decision on how they implement. I know this has not been an easy conversation. We're very grateful for the involvement. We welcome conversations and discussions, but more than anything, it is our responsibility to provide students with high quality instructional materials and the best teachers we can put in our classrooms. With 7 clinical teachers this spring, that's a hardship that not only San Angelo ISD faces, but school districts across the state of Texas and the nation as a whole.
You said that the State Board of Education approves the curriculum that we're going to use, okay? So let me ask you, so if we were not to get Bluebonnet, okay, and so would we go another direction and find a different curriculum? And if we did find one locally controlled, would it have to be approved by the State Board of Education?
So to receive the additional funding of approximately $1 million, it would have to be on one of those 3 pages of resources presented to you for review.
Okay. And if we didn't want those?
Then you would not have the additional entitlements, and you would have to ensure 100% of TEKS alignment to the resource.
So I'm going to propose something, and obviously everyone can, this board, so anyone can make a motion or not a second, or regardless. I would propose we ask Dr. Gomez questions, make sure questions are asked and answered, but I would also propose that this is tabled till the full board is present. I know, but that is, any single board member is able to make a motion. But that would be my proposal, just because of an even number of board members and what that could set up.
I would like all board members to be present. However, also, I'd like more time to read, because there's a lot of stuff that I found out today that I started reading on and yesterday, and I was just like, I don't got time to read all this right now. And this is going to guarantee me another week, 2 weeks to find out what I really need to find out. And I just thank all of you for coming, and we got your read on everything that you had to say about it. I mean, you know, like I always say, this is democracy at work. You know, you get to come voice your opinions, and I'm very, very thankful that y'all came out and give us your opinions on what you thought of. So thank you very much. But I'd like to, did you make a motion?
No,
well, I'll make the motion to table it. I mean,
well, let's let everyone ask the
Okay.
questions, because I do think it's important we make sure we get questions asked as well. But then the other thing, I forgot. We'll ask questions, then we'll go from there.
Yeah,
sorry. I know what it was. I apologize.
Okay.
I do think, though, that whatever the board decides, although, as I'm going to say it up front now, we're going to make a vote at our pre-agenda meeting, which is, because we're discussing it tonight, we had it on our pre-agenda meeting for last week, and that gives the admin team the ability to use spring break to use whatever decision the board makes and go from there. So I do think we should post it on the next meeting, although it is not a regular agenda meeting.
Just to kind of clarify, so obviously our options are very limited to begin with, frankly. I know you mentioned last week that there is like alternative material for all the educational or all the religious stuff. Is that true? Would it be, and maybe I'm just kind of thinking outside the box, could we adopt it as a district and then just as a blanket just do the alternative stuff across the board?
So to answer your question, that would be a no, because we are obligated to have standards alignment. And so while we've been discussing the specific references to Christianity, there are other religious references. And it is currently in the TEKS and the State Board of Education that we are required to teach about religion. So you can't do a blanket and say any piece of literature for historical context is to be omitted. We would not be aligned with the standards.
Okay, so that would have to come from the individual parent.
Yes, there also, so as I've mentioned in previous discussions and through Friday Facts, the national version was written for approximately 180 days. The Bluebonnet version is said to be written for approximately 160 days. We have 170 school days on our calendar. So with just the pacing of the curriculum, that doesn't put in any other assessments, San Angelo ISD is committed to multiple measures of data. So while yes, we're required to take the STAR assessment because it's the state assessment, we don't just use that one data measure. We, as you are very well aware, we also give MAP as example. So when we talk about the pacing, that's just if you rolled out with no other special district instances. So we still will not be able to meet every single lesson. But in the transparency, the parental portal, let's say a specific lesson is omitted, we have to make that, we have to have that notice for parents.
And then I guess
that goes with the district local control of on what you adopt and how you implement. If you have any revisions, you have to be transparent in how you made the revisions. And then individual parents, Dr. Mills, to answer your questions, if a parent, let's say a parent of a kindergarten student says, I don't want my student to have this lesson, there's an alternative lesson. Just as if a second grade parent says, I don't want my child exposed to this Jewish historical context, we have to honor that as well.
Right. So I guess to kind of piggyback on that, so let's say as a district, I know we can't get rid of all, you answer that question, but if there was something that was particularly polarizing, could we
absolutely
remove
we could.
That part
We've
of it?
That already happens. That already happens in our classrooms today. The difference is the parental portal requirement of the bill. So there have already been instances, and when we say instances, it's not multiple lessons, it's less than 5. But there's been educators that have voiced concern. There is a process. You do have to have standards alignment. And going back to that teacher voice, which is the craft of teaching, it can't be teacher A just says, nah, I don't like this, so I'm not doing it. And teacher B says, oh, I like this, so I'm doing it. There's a formal process because we have an obligation to ensure consistency and alignment among all of our campuses.
And I guess to your point, I know there were several teachers that were, I guess, had some concerns about like having a strict script, and is that true? Or are they stuck
there
to
is a script? It is true with those resources that there is a script. Now, what goes back to the craft of teaching, if I've been teaching 19 years, Do I have to stand there and read the script? No. These are real stats from San Angelo ISD. On average, the district hires between 100 to 125 new to district teachers. Of those new hires, around 65, 70 on average are new to the profession. This year in San Angelo ISD in our new teacher academy, we had 66 teachers. And by new to profession, we mean a teacher coming in with 0 years of experience, meaning they could have gone straight through traditional university-based schooling, where that's what they went to school for. They were a clinical teacher, traditional pathway. It also means someone that has a degree outside the field of education that participates in an alternative certification program. It also means teachers that were employed in other school districts that did not require the educator to have a State Board of Educators certificate. San Angelo ISD believes in providing the highest quality teachers, and it is a requirement for a teacher contract that you have a State Board approved educator certificate. So a number of approximately 65, 70 annually are current stats. Those educators are not coming in with a background to have the craft to know, whereas somebody that's been in the profession and has multiple years of experience, that's completely different.
So like you're saying that a teacher that was new or didn't have as much experience, they could rely on the script more.
Absolutely.
But an
They
experienced
need
teacher,
to rely on the script,
but
yes.
an experienced teacher would not be in.
They don't need to read and lose the craft of teaching word for word. Do they need to cover the standards in the lesson? Absolutely. That's your standards alignment.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Mills, I think that is where our PLCs that we've talked about, teachers coming together, collaborating, is so vital, because a script is good. I, after 30 years, probably, hopefully, would not be reading a script, okay? So if I'm teaching a lesson and I have a great idea, I would hope in our PLCs, me, a first-year teacher, I'm going to share that with her. And I'm going to say, this is the script. I want you to read it, dig into it, learn. But this is a great way to teach that. And that's where our collaboration, our PLCs all come together. The other thing that you noticed was the teacher's not required to make, okay? That's
to create new material.
And I'm okay with that. But, if I have a great idea, I'm going to create it whether I'm paid or not, because that's the heart of a teacher. So I think, I would hope, we have amazing teachers out there that do amazing things, and we're not necessarily tying their hands. A great teachers, I'm going to go way back. If any of you remember, we adopted Saxon many years ago. I was teaching Saxon. It was very scripted. I read it every night because I was like, I'm going to hear what they say. And then when I went into the classroom, I taught the TEK, because that's a non-negotiable. You have to teach the TEK if you teach in Texas. But how I taught it and what I used sometimes was not the Saxon way, okay? So it's very complex. It's very hard to even explain unless you've really been in there. But I think with our PLCs and our ICs going into classrooms and helping, I don't want people to think that every single day I'm going to read a script, because, excuse me, I've spent the past 4 days reading from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. And sometimes when I was reading those social study scripts, I was like going, what? But that helped me, because I'm not a social studies teacher, but it helped me understand what I was going to teach. There might be days that I may be like, you know what, I need this today. It's a resource. I need this today to teach this unit, because maybe I'm not really great at it, but the next day I may read it and go, you know what, I've got this. I'm going to teach it this phenomenal way that when I was a first-year teacher, my teacher beside me, and I always use this analogy, when I interviewed for my first job, I said, please don't make me teach science. Well, my first job was science because I had that certificate. The teacher beside me was Mr. Horn. He had been teaching it for 32 years, and he was phenomenal. So every morning, 21-year-old Pam would walk into her room and say, why are clouds important? Teach me. He taught me. There are days maybe he wasn't there to help me, so I needed something to help me. So that's kind of how I look at this whole big picture. It's so complex and so weaved. It's not just this, this, or this. So I hope maybe that helps everyone understand. There's always things that aren't good in anything we do, but we have to find what is the best. And I love the part that, the parent can see it. A parent can take it away and say, and I had parents do that, when there were word problems maybe in math. I would send home, they didn't like it. So you know what? I gave them a different word problem. When you're a teacher, you learn to pivot, you learn flexibility, you learn a lot of things. And that's why you're a teacher. You have that skill to be able to do that. And we have people in admin on our campuses, our principals, that have the skill to help everyone. So I don't know if that.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you. That's more or less the point. Is I hope that regardless of whether we ultimately adopt Bluebonnet or not, that we don't ever strip away the art of teaching, and that we're cracking down on teachers because they don't want to read a script one day, or they want to bring something else in but still cover the material. I think that is important to keep that alive, and that's the heart of teaching, and I just think that's important. So thank you, Pam.
Dr. Mills, I would also like to commend Ms. Duncan on your account of being a teacher. As a current serving administrator, I wish we had the Mr. Horns next door that we could offer all of our teachers that had 32 years of experience. We have guidelines for mentors, and part of the guidelines are to have 3 years of service. We have some campuses and some grade levels where they can't meet that requirement because there is no educator on the team that has the 3 years minimum service. It goes back to the need to equip teachers with resources that provide supports, that we're not depending on just the teachers next door.
I have a few things that I wanted to ask about. The first thing is, and I know that you're reporting what the state is telling you, but I disagree that it's our job to teach about religion. I think that's the parents' job. I think that's the church's job. I was talking to Monsignor Joel here before the meeting started, and he was asking, "What's this Bluebonnet thing that everybody's talking about?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, that's what preachers do. That's what pastors do." And so while I completely understand the need for the high quality instructional materials, and I understand, that we need to go with something that the State Board of Ed approves. I'm really struggling with Bluebonnet. And like Ms. Best, I also was reading through some of the readers this past week and really struggle with some of the readers. And she read it quickly, but even if you read it slowly, they're just not strong readers. And she read the first grade one, I think. Was that first grade? But even the third grade one and the fourth grade one, they're not something that would make kids want to, it wouldn't instill the love of reading in children. And I think that that's the concern that I have with the readers. So I guess my question is, or one of my questions is, if we used one of the other state board approved instructional materials on that list, would we, there were two columns, and there was one column where we'd get the $1 million, and then if we use Bluebonnet, it was an additional 200,000. So if we use one of these, would we receive $1 million, but not the extra $20 for printing? Is that what it was saying?
That's correct. The state board approved instructional materials. If there's an adoption of a resource on this list, that's the additional SBOE entitlement, which for our district is approximately $1 million. The only option to receive the additional entitlement For the printing cost associated is Bluebonnet Learning.
Right. Okay. So, but theoretically, would we have to print all the materials for these items too?
There would be printing associated with any resource on the list.
Okay. Okay. And then, so it would essentially cost us $200,000 to print if we had a
that would vary. So I cannot give you an exact amount.
Okay.
I can tell you currently with the COVID emergency response versions of the resources, we receive 0 reimbursement for the printing costs associated. The greatest difference is the prior additional funding that came through the ESSER emergency response funds, which we no longer have access to.
I understand that. And then when Ms. Duncan was saying, and you were saying that they don't have to read the script, but they have to be able to cover the materials. But last week you had said that they still had to pace and make sure that they covered everything in the right time. So it would just be, especially the first couple of years when you're studying, I haven't taught in a classroom, but I would assume that when you're learning a curriculum, it's going to take a couple of years to learn how to pace it, right? So, so they would have to read the script in the beginning, right? Or
I'm going to agree to disagree on that because to pace and cover the standards does not mean that an educator has to read the script word for word. What it does mean is that you can't spend 4 additional days or longer on a portion, or you will not be aligned for the embedded assessments that are a piece of the curriculum.
Got it. And then one more question then. So these others that are approved for the State Board of Ed, or by the State Board of Ed, something that I think Ms. Moore said in her comments was that the STAR was rewritten to align with Bluebonnet. Is that correct? So if that's the case, and we went with another curriculum, would our students be at a disadvantage is it being written to align with STAR, and if so, would they be at a disadvantage with another curriculum?
That would be a matter of opinion. The Texas Education Agency is the governing agency for the STAR assessment. So it is the agency most closely connected to the STAR assessment.
Okay. I got you. All right. Thank you very much.
This one's quick. I don't understand this stuff as well. What is the difference between the English language arts in reading and then just English phonics?
So that's it's the commissioner's statute that districts must have a specific phonics component. So when we started and we highlighted the statute that prohibits the use of 3 cueing in phonics instruction, the state has prohibited phonics materials that teach the 3 cueing. So the phonics that you see approved does not teach the 3 cueing system. That's getting real in the weeds about teaching phonics.
We wouldn't have to get that, and if we adopted Bluebonnet, that's included. We don't have to have a phonics in addition.
Correct. So there's a skills component and a knowledge component in Bluebonnet Learning. The approved State Board of Education phonics component is only the skills portion. So that does not address the TEKS that are specific to comprehension and writing.
I guess the reason I ask is, so if we had Amplify, that wouldn't be just sufficient by itself. We would have to have something else.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sorry. I got a couple just to make sure I either reiterate or heard things correctly. So we made a lot about parents being able to adopt in or adopt out more appropriately of lesson plans, et cetera. We would have the same, and we have the same policy in place for teachers. Like, would a teacher, if a group of 4th grade teachers at Bonham didn't want to teach a certain TEKS this way, they've taught a TEKS, and I apologize to every teacher in the room that I'm saying it the way I am, but they want to teach a TEKS the way they have taught it traditionally. It has been successful for them. They have figured out a way to put that in the pacing for them, and they say this book and this lesson, we have always loved this, and we've been able to teach TEKS X on this. Would that group of 4th grade teachers still be able to do that?
So I wish we could get any group, and I say this as a reading language arts person, but even more so than mathematicians, Mrs. Duncan, to get an entire group of reading language arts teachers to agree on the perfect piece of literature to teach a skill is one of the hardest things to do. To answer your question, would teachers still have a voice if they had a concern over the resource? They would have a voice, and they currently have a voice. But what's so important is one group can't say, no, I'm not doing that. We want to do it this way at school A, and school B is like, we're doing it this way. That doesn't have standards alignment and consistency across the district. So the students at Group A, their family has to move for specific family reasons, and they now go to school B where the teachers wanted to do things a different way. Now we don't have consistency and alignment across the district. That's why there must be an aligned resource. But to voice a concern, we've had that happen this year. We've had that happen every year I've been an educator. What's important to know is there's a system for that so that we ensure consistency across the district. It is no secret and surprise the mobility rate of our students and families in the district. And to be just as blunt as we possibly can, that's part of our reasoning in some past gaps when students bounce from school to school and we're not following a consistent pacing.
I have a couple more questions. I apologize. As far as all of the things on the slide, the State Board of Approved materials, including the Amplify we're using now versus Amplify Texas Edition Bluebonnet, the only high-quality instructional material that is aligned with TEKS on this whole list, specifically aligned to TEKS, is Bluebonnet.
That's correct, the full component. When you're talking the difference between the current version of Amplify Phonics that's still on the list, that's only the skills version. Okay. So the Texas Education Agency Bluebonnet Learning, according to the State Board of Education, that is not my call to make, right, is 100% aligned to the TEKS.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that there are a lot of components in this that are local control. And there is local control, but there is some of this that is coming from House bills that exist where you're being given option A or option B, and you may not like either option, but you have to pick one of them. And so, okay. That is my questions for tonight. Any other board questions or comments?
Of course, I have two. I want to go back to Kyle when he was talking about the pacing. You know, the pacing, many years ago, when we didn't have this, we called it, what did we call that, back? There was some word we used. So you start at the end of the year where you have to be, and we would sketch out the whole year because you have to teach all your TEKS. So we would go, you know, in May, how are we going to get them all done? And that's what Farrah was referring to, because me, for instance, I love me some order of operation, but I can't do it for 2 weeks. So I had to like cut me off because I couldn't do that anymore. So they kind of, I think these curriculums kind of help you do that, so you don't have to. And then Dr. Kingman was referring to the teacher, and I agree, you know, Bel Air can't be doing this and this and this, but here it goes back to that teacher. And I'm sorry if I'm using examples from myself, but back when we were really teaching factoring, a teacher many years ago had showed me a process called upside down division. I love it, and my kids loved it. So I got, you know, I called all the other 7th grade teachers at the time, Lincoln and Lone Star, Lee, and I showed them, and they all agreed, let's teach it that way, because my kids understood it. I had proof that it had been successful on STAR, that TEK was high, and that's, again, I can't stress where that collaboration comes in. So as long, I mean, if I'm a brand new teacher and a teacher shows me this and she's got facts that it works, I think I'm going to probably do it.
All right. Sorry, I'm gonna do one more thing. So, I mean, I think the other issue we have is that if you look at item D on our agenda tonight, is that what we're doing isn't working. When we have 13% of kids coming into kindergarten on grade level for what a kindergartner is supposed to know. And so I guess my question, Dr. Gomez, is do you feel like this is the best opportunity we have of the options given to us to fix what's not working right now?
This would be the most aligned resource we've ever had to recommend for adoption. I'll reiterate, and I'll say this with anyone that I have a conversation with. I don't believe in a perfect resource. From the list we have to present, I do believe this is the best resource.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a motion, unless there's any other board questions or comments, that we table considering House Bill 1605 and instruction materials to be voted upon at our pre-agenda meeting. And just so everyone in the audience and watching knows, that is at March 10th at 5:45. It is listed as a finance pre-agenda meeting, but that there will be an action item regarding Blue Bonnet or House Bill 1605 and instructional materials on that agenda item. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a race for second from Mr. Gallegos and Mrs. Duncan. Ladies first, Mrs. Duncan gets the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, say the same. Okay, so we'll table that. Next, Dr. Gomez, you're going to help us with consider our 24-25 district and campus performance objectives.
Yes, sir. So Ms. Taunton is out this evening, so I'll be speaking on her behalf. Earlier in the fall of this year, the board, you all approved new superintendent board goals. Anytime there's approval process of new board goals, then the district improvement plan and the campus improvement plans are written to reflect those board goals. So as part of that process in San Angelo ISD, we have our community-based advisory council. So after the board approved those goals, they were presented to the community-based accountability team, advisory team, which makes up a little over 100 stakeholders. And so you have the board goals, and then you write performance objectives. Those were presented to the advisory council in the fall, and now they're being brought forward to the district to formally approve the performance objectives, because we are required to have the district improvement plan and the campus improvement plan plans for each individual campus reflect those goals and performance objectives. So it's just taking it through the entire process of development, review, and lastly, approval. You do have all of those as they are being written for the first time. You will note that the alignment between the district and the campus is the same at this time, as the campuses are working to create their individual strategies and activities that meet those board-approved goals.
This is just a question for you, Dr. Gomez. So our intention as a board when we started creating board goals was to give touch points that were being measured annually, because traditionally our board goals were more like a 4-year
correct
thing. Just as a logistics, if we are changing, because we're going to get into board goals again this summer, if we're changing our board goals every year, or maybe not all of them, but some of them, do we need to, I guess this is more as a semantic question, do we as a board need to be labeling them something different so they're not, or do we need them to, I guess what I'm trying to say, are we creating more work for people that is not actually impacting students, and are we, when we were trying to actually help improve students?
I think Dr. Moran might want to answer, but I'm happy to add on.
Just a thought for the board to consider as we develop our goals and we begin the year. the formalization of the process rolls into the DIP and SIP, we call it, the
Yes,
District
sir.
Improvement Plan and Campus Improvement Plans, which are living documents that can be changed. I don't think there's any harm in us feeling good about annually amending our goals and updating them and rolling them out to the district so that they can fold those into the plans for the campus. I don't think that should affect us at all.
I just don't want to be making problems at the campus level where
Shouldn't
we,
be a
okay,
problem.
fantastic. Anyone have any questions regarding the approval of the district improvement and campus improvement plans to include our superintendent plan, goals from this past year? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve administration's recommendation of the district improvement plan and campus improvement plan for its objectives.
So motion from Mr. Gallegos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mrs. Mizell Flint. Any other board questions or comments? All in favor say aye. All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. Announcements, we have our finance and pre-agenda workshop on March 10th at 5:45. We have a regular board meeting on March 24th at 5:45. And with that, we are adjourned.